So there's a blockchain that JPMorgan, Goldman Sachs, and BNP Paribas actually use. It's called Canton, and getting an asset off it out onto a public chain like Ethereum has been genuinely hard by design because the privacy is the whole point. Then, on August 18th, 2026, a company almost nobody has heard of opened a door in that wall. And here's the part that made me read it twice. The largest swap you can walk through that door with is $50,000 on a network that talks in trillions. So let me show you what they built, because it's not a bridge, there's no wrapped token, and the whole thing hangs on one 64-character secret that unlocks both ledgers at once. This is Interstice Digital 101. Quick thing before we dig in. Come build this with us. The Motion Room is our Discord. Daily announcements, hackathons, job openings, charts and data, and early access, where every video drops before it goes public. Join and you land in the newsletter channel too. One newsletter every Friday. Link is below. Okay, to understand this, you go back to November 2021, when a company called Republic Realm paid $4.3 million for a piece of land. Not real land, a patch of the sandbox, co-developed with Atari, and the largest virtual land sale anyone had recorded at the time. 3 months later, that division spun out of Republic, renamed itself Every Realm, and raised a $60 million Series A led by Andreessen Horowitz, with Paris Hilton, Lil Baby, and Nas on the angel list. Now fast forward. On February 23rd of this year, somebody registered the domain intersticedigital.io. That's the birth certificate. Interstice is roughly 6 months old, wearing a 4-year-old cap table, run by the same chief executive the whole way through, Janine Yorio. And Every Realm never announced a pivot, so this isn't a rebrand. It's a new venture built right next door. Oh, and the name. They explain it themselves. Interstice comes from Berserk, the manga by Kentaro Miura, where the interstice is the layer where the physical world and the astral world overlap. Neither fully one nor the other, but the space where both become possible. A compliance infrastructure company pitching bank treasurers named itself after a dark fantasy manga and put that explanation right next to its investor logos. Right, into the machine, because this is the good part. The old way to move value between two chains is a bridge, and a bridge is basically a coat check. Everybody's tickets are claims against one big rack in the back room. So rob the rack and every ticket is worthless. That's why bridges have been the juiciest target in this industry. Interstice built a handshake instead, a hashed time lock contract, an HTLC. You pick a secret, you hash it, and you get a 64-character fingerprint. That fingerprint goes into a lock on each chain, and the rule on both locks is identical. Whoever shows up with a value that hashes to this gets the money. So you ask for a quote, counterparties come back with firm signed prices, and when you pick one, the exact terms get hashed too and written into both contracts. If those don't match, the contract refuses the swap. Nobody can quietly reprice you at the last second. Then the Canton leg locks, then the Ethereum leg, then somebody claims, and the second they claim, that secret is sitting in public for the other side to pick up and use. 2 locks, 1 key, both sides move. And if nobody claims, each lock just springs back open for whoever funded it. That's the time lock, and the 2 clocks are deliberately uneven. Canton's runs 6 hours, Ethereum's runs 2. So whoever claims second always has the shorter window to sweat. And here's the elegant bit. On Ethereum, that hash lock isn't just a password, it is the swap's identity, the key in the contract's own ledger. Try to reuse one and the second lock reverts. A whole class of replay bugs, gone, for free. And the counterparty side is where FalconX comes in. Institutional prime broker, around $2.5 trillion of lifetime volume. They're not custodying anything here. They're quoting prices. So who can actually see any of this? Canton isn't private exactly, and their docs are careful about the word. It's stakeholder visible. Somebody watching that ledger who isn't in your trade sees none of it. Not the parties, not the amount, not the hash lock. Ethereum, meanwhile, is a town square with a megaphone. The lock publishes the amount and the addresses, and the claim publishes the secret itself, which means a swap leaves this beautifully lopsided footprint. Watch only Canton, you see nothing. Watch both, and the hash lock is the one thread stitching them together, because both chains wrote it down. And on custody, the contract holding your Canton asset is signed by exactly one party, you. Interstice is recorded as an observer. They can see it, they just have no authority over it. Certic went through those contracts in June and came back with 15 findings. One critical, one major, one medium, 9 minor. 13 got fixed in commits, 2 were acknowledged, and both of those are informational. And then my favorite decision in the whole thing. Getting in requires real verification, identity and sanction screening through Trulioo, wallet screening through TRM Labs. But that check happens when you ask for a quote, and never again. Their words, verification gates entry to a swap. It does not gate exit. So if your paperwork lapses halfway through a trade, the math still lets you out. They chose not to be able to strand your money. Now, everybody covered the swap engine. Almost nobody looked at the rest of the site. And that's where this company gets interesting. They run a global data center economy map. And the thesis is stated flat out. Demand for AI compute is a global phenomenon. The infrastructure to serve it is not, yet. Today, about 46% of the world's data centers sit in the United States, and Northern Virginia's data center alley alone carries 13% of global operating capacity. And what they track isn't square footage, it's the two things AI runs out of first: power and water. Pull up a parcel in Campinas, Sao Paulo, and the card reads, power grid, constrained, water, constrained. And the dataset behind it is just sitting there. 7,114 records across 172 countries, every one carrying a source URL. In a public file you can go read tonight. They're paying a crowdsourced network of local contributors, in points, to fill in the gaps. Then there's the other one. The Venezuela protocol, launched April 28th, audited by QuantStamp. Compliance infrastructure for stablecoin payments into one of the hardest corridors on Earth, where the audit trail is the product. And here's the tell nobody mentioned. 3 of their 5 open jobs are Latin America. The Canton work is the credential, but that payments corridor looks a lot like the business. Okay, honest accounting, because this is where the story gets better, not worse. The headline everywhere says 4 networks: Canton, Ethereum, Solana, Robinhood Chain. So I went looking. Across 20 pages of swap engine documentation, the words Solana and Robinhood Chain appear 0 times. And their own overview page says it plainly. At launch, 3 assets. Canton Coin on one side, ETH and USDC on the other. The lending product on Robinhood Chain says, in their words, under development and not currently available. That's not a gotcha. That's a shipped thing being smaller than an announced thing. 2 more things a well-read viewer already knows. Interstice wasn't first. On July 23rd, a firm called Architect ran live non-custodial hashlock swaps on Canton mainnet with SFOX and Pixelplex. So the honest claim is, first one wired into prime broker liquidity, not first ever. And that Robinhood chain leg is young. 3 weeks after mainnet, over 80% of the trading on it was meme coins, and only about $14 million was tokenized stocks. FalconX's own strategist said so on the record. And then the line that won me over. On the docs for their single ledger product, describing their own flagship, they write, A shared transaction is strictly stronger than a hash lock pair. The two-phase machinery exists to approximate, across two chains, what a single Canton transaction simply is. That's a company telling you its headline feature is the compromise. You don't see that often. So, pulling it together. A metaverse land company grows up, spins off a 6-month-old brand named after a manga, and ships a swap engine connecting the ledger Wall Street actually uses to the ledger everybody else is on. No wrapped tokens, no custodian, a $50,000 ceiling. It's small on purpose, and the interesting question was never whether 50 grand is a lot, it's whether the door holds. And your action item here is completely free. Go read their documentation. Start with the HTLC primer. It's the clearest short explainer of atomic swaps I've found anywhere, and it's a 10-minute read. Then read the failure modes page, the one that tells you what happens when things break. Here's the real takeaway. When a company publishes the exact hours on its time locks, the severity table from its own audit, and a page explaining every way its product can fail, you don't have to take anybody's word for anything. You can go check. That's the whole skill. If this was useful, hit subscribe, drop a comment with what you want broken down next, and come say hi in the Discord. Links in the description, along with the newsletter sign up and the full write-up. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.